I want to start out this article by giving my sincere and very clear gratitude and thanks to all those men, women, and service animals who served in our armed forces in any capacity. They fully deserve the title of veteran, regardless of their level of interaction. Now, what if I told you that a SJW professor, Dr. Warren J. Bloomfield, was at his veterinary? He went to the vet, okay? And he was getting his dog his yearly checkup, and some nasty military veteran in front of him had been informed by the vet that he was receiving a 10% discount for being a veteran. And this got the good doctor thinking about, aren't people who took up arms as social justice warriors veterans too? Shouldn't they also be considered veterans? We should really expand the meaning of that word. Now, I don't know what it is. If I don't want to get on too much of a rant here, but isn't it curious how members of the far left always want to be redefining words? It started out with things like harassment or sexual harassment. That used to mean something back in the day. Nowadays, who knows what it means? It could be a tweet. It could be a look. It could be, I don't know, if you fart and somebody walks through your fart cloud. I don't know. What does that even mean anymore? Same thing with other heinous crimes that no longer have any meaning. So they're always trying to redefine words. I'm not exactly sure why, to gray the lines, to set themselves up as victims or heroes when they clearly aren't. But this guy, somebody over at LGBTQ Nation decided to pen an article, a think piece, a real thinker, a real thinking person's piece, something that you have a little tea and you sit down and you read it. No, TV's not on, your cell phone's on. You really want to think about this. Dr. Warren Blumfeld, editor of Homophobia, How We All Pay the Price, and co-editor of Readings for Diversity and Social Justice, shares an anecdote at LGBTQ Nation about how he found himself behind a military veteran at the veterinarian's office and noted how the veteran was given a discount because of his service to the nation. That got Blumfeld thinking about the word veteran and how it's unfortunately tied to military and nasty military things like war. Isn't it time to expand the definition of veteran to include those who advocate for change through peace? He writes, "It's unacceptable when one's love of country is called into question when advocating for peaceful means of conflict resolution. It's also an act of patriotism to keep our brave troops out of harm's way." Yeah, that's what I see a lot of SJWs doing. And work to create conditions and understanding that ultimately make war less likely. To be clear, I'm not arguing that everyone be granted a retail discount by expanding our classification of veteran, or even that others acknowledge us for our service in working for a better and more just society. But just take a few moments to consider those fighting a cultural and figurative civil war to reduce the violence and injustice and place the United States in a higher standing around the world. Well, isn't it an interesting way to pen that? I'm not saying that we should get a discount, but just think about it. I want to be held in the same regard as somebody who's done 3 tours in Iraq. I'm basically the same thing. Me laying around on the grocery store floor while taking selfies is the same thing as somebody in Fallujah. That's what he's advocating for. It's both a devaluing. I think this article may be more sinister than its face value is. He's, in my opinion, arguing not just for an elevation of SJWs to an absurd level of respect they don't deserve, but he's also arguing for a degradation of how we value our troops and those men, women, and service animals in our armed forces. This is not uncommon of folks that think this way. And as much as he tries to pretend, we'll look at the actual article and show that in good faith, he does try to painstakingly point out that he's not a military, it's not the same thing. It's not the same thing. But then at the end, he's like, yeah, but isn't it kind of the same thing? Just think about it, man. And let's see how that tweet went over. Let's see. Should we expand the definition of veteran to include those advocating for justice, freedom, and liberty through peaceful means? No, no, no. How about no? No. How about no? Don't be stupid. No, get the fuck out of here. Nope. No, no, no. Activists are not veterans. Stop this bullshit narrative. Well, they are not veterans. Do you have any other questions? No. My 10 hours overseas says no. 10 tours, I mean. As an actual veteran, I served in Iraq. How about you? Social justice warrior who wants to be called a veteran. Outside a Chick-fil-A in Dallas. Yeah, I mean, the sad thing is, I believe that this author truly believes, they truly see themselves as some sort of... Now look at this. This is a nice ratio. 359 comments, 40 favorites, 42 favorites. A hat and a sign does not a veteran make. What exactly are you smoking? I mean, it's absurd. You're getting butchered here, rightfully so. They had to repost the article because they got ratioed so bad. Here's to the ratio. I mean, what did you think? What did you think was going to happen when you posted this? He spent a long time trying to dance around how he wasn't viewing SJWs as veterans, but he really is. You could say things like, he talks about, I thought the discount was appropriate, but that defenders of this country's security should be given an even greater discount. So he's like over the top, like, oh no, I'm not trying to do anything. It's like methinks thou protest too much. Is that how you say it? I mean, he's like, no, military veterans they're amazing. They're so great. In fact, we don't support them enough. But also, SJWs are veterans too. I have long thought that about whom our country includes in its socially constructed category of veteran. Right there, you have to read between all his posturing where he's like, no, I support our troops. This is great, blah, 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 blah. Oh, but also veteran is a social construct. Currently, that classification remains limited to those honorably serving in our armed forces. And yes, the service is a profession, and this profession has traditionally been determined by our society as honorable and noble work. Why, though, have we circumscribed the parameters of veteran? Why have we so limited its definition? Because words have meanings. I don't understand why. I mean, this really boils my blood. You can put all these words down on a paper and talk about how you really value our troops, but you also think we should put them in the same category as people that free bleed on the street. It's unacceptable when one's love of country is called into question when advocating for peaceful means of conflict resolution. It's also an act of patriotism to keep our brave troops out of harm's way. Yeah, that's what social justice warriors are really doing. Fighting for 37 flavors of gender is really keeping our troops safe. Didn't you know? Social justice warriors should also be receiving military awards like the Purple Heart, don't you think? And it's funny how it's like, to be clear, I'm not arguing that everyone be granted retail discounts by expanding our classification of veteran, or even others acknowledge us for our service in working for a better and more just society. But take a few moments to consider those fighting a cultural and figurative civil war to reduce violence and injustice and place the United States. It's like, no. How about hell no? You have a word. You have a word as social justice warriors. You know what word you have? You have survivor. That used to mean something too, but you took that as well. So why don't you just call yourself a social justice survivor? If you manage to be a social justice warrior for, let's say, 10 years, and you don't end up living back at home or completely broke, living in destitute, we should create some sort of special award for you, because you really did survive and overcome, in my opinion. If you are that warped in the mind and you manage to hold a job, if you manage to pay your student loans, if you manage to not be jailed, these are things that I think we should award for social justice. I mean, we really need to look at this citizen, the citizen that chooses social justice, as like a mentally handicapped person. We should really celebrate the small things that they do, because they're really overcoming almost insurmountable odds. So if like a social justice warrior, happens to, I don't know, pay a tab to buy you a beer, or to maybe pay for your coffee, this is something that we should celebrate. If they get their own apartment before the age 40, we should have a special award for that, because I think we really should do more to celebrate the small, meaningful steps forward for those of the mentally stunted. I mean, this country doesn't do enough to celebrate when an SJW has less than 3 roommates. Or when let's say that there's a day that comes and when they don't take the check from their parents to pay their rent, when they can actually pay their own rent, or they actually work more than 40 hours. More than 40 hours. Now, it can be spread across 3 coffee shops. I don't care. But if you work more than 40 hours, this is something we should award you as a social justice survivor. Thanks for watching this video. We'll talk to you again real soon.